The S1H Mark II is a long-awaited camera, but it hasn't released just yet. Instead, Panasonic released the S1 Mark II, which is an absolute video powerhouse with insane dynamic range and finally a fast sensor. Coming up. Hi guys, my name is Paul. I'm a German-based cinematographer and this channel is all about filmmaking videos but also DaVinci Resolve tutorials. So if that's something that you're interested in, consider subscribe. That really helps the channel. So Panasonic invited me to the LUMIX event in Lisboa, and they not only released the S1 Mark II, they also released a new lens, the 24-60, which is really compact and nice, and also the S1 Mark II-E, which is basically an S5 IIX in a S1 sensor, you could say. But a real star was the S1 Mark II, and the video specs alone are quite impressive, but as we all know, specs alone are kind of useless if you don't see what they can do in the real world. So that's what we're gonna check out right now. So the star of the show is the 6K partially stacked sensor inside the S1 Mark II, which is definitely an improvement over the past cameras in terms of readout speed. We got 15 milliseconds in open gate recording, which is a pretty good result and definitely an improvement over the past cameras from Panasonic, which reached about 30 milliseconds in open gate recording. Since the body design of the S1 Mark II is identical to the S1R Mark II, which I've already reviewed, I won't go too much in depth about that, but basically the body design is really good. It's nice and compact, and also alongside with this 24-60, it's a really nice compact powerhouse camera. The only thing that I probably would have wished for would be a timecode import, but that's maybe coming if an S1H Mark II is coming, or an even more video-focused camera than that one. The image quality of the S1 Mark II is as impressive as the specs suggest. So the 4K 120, which Panasonic claims, is also downsampled, so no line skip, no pixel binning like that. And it looks really clean, and also I really liked how they implemented that also with the fast readout speed and everything. But the main feature for me is obviously that we can now record open gate in 60 frames, which is really nice and all I basically ever wanted. So we also have the 6K up to 30 frames, but we also have the 5.1K in open gate up to 60 frames per second. So that one is really nice. Also the colors of the S1 Mark II look really nice. I really like how they turned out, and it's definitely from my perspective an improvement over the S1R Mark II, but as I've said, we'll check out later on that in my full comparison video. So let's talk about low light of this camera, and due to the dual base ISO which this camera has for 640 and also 5000, the ISO performance is really good. So you can use this camera easily up to 6400 and also 12800. Beyond that, I think you're gonna use some noise reduction, and also from my impression that I have, but I have to test it even further, that the low light performance on the S1R Mark II is slightly better due to the higher pixel, which has been going down then into 4K. But I have to test it further out, and will definitely check that out in my comparison video between the S1H, the S1R Mark II and the S1 Mark II. Panasonic claims that the S1 has 15 stops of dynamic range, which is the highest result from the claims according to Panasonic. And obviously I did my over and under exposure test to see how the camera really performs in that regard. And as expected, the results are really outstanding. So I got 5 stops of overexposure, which is absolutely crazy, really. At 5.5 stops, we see some clipping on my skin, and also on 6 stops, it's gone. And also underexposure, this camera performs really, really well. So I got up to 4 stops of underexposure with no CMOS smearing, no artifacts. So just the noise is getting stronger. This brings us in total to 9 stops of exposure latitude, which is the same result that I got with the Red Dragon, which is the highest ranking that I ever got with my camera. So that one is yeah, it is really impressive, but we have to admit that probably in the S1 Mark II there's probably some noise reduction going on, and in the Red Dragon it is not. The camera also has a dynamic range boost mode, as we have seen in the GH7, and here we got some pretty interesting results. So if we compare that in the overexposure department, the 5.5 stops do look a little bit better, but it's still clipped. In this case, we're also losing a lot of shadow detail, because if we underexpose the camera, we can go up to 3 stops maximum. So we lose a whole stop in the shadows. So for me, it's rather a shifting of the highlight clipping point, but it's not like doing a huge step as we have seen in the S1R Mark II, which the dynamic range of this camera is definitely worse than that. So I probably would suggest to turn it off. It might be helpful in some situations where you're doing like talking heads or interviews, that you get just a little bit more highlight retention, but I think it's just quarter a stop of highlight retention. Overall, the dynamic range of this camera is probably also one of the biggest selling features of it. As impressive as it all sounds, it really comes down to the question at the very end, is it really worth it for you? And the price is the same as for the S1R Mark II, so you really have to decide, do you really want to have the high resolution 8K sensor with a slower readout speed? Or do you want to have the S1 Mark II, which has a 24 megapixel sensor, so it's a 6K sensor. And for me personally, that was all I ever wanted to have, because 6K is more than enough for me. I never need 8K, and I really like 6K is for me personally the sweet spot. And also now that we have open gate recording with the 3:2 aspect ratio in a higher frame rate and all the good stuff. And also the camera will get Arilog C in all the 3 cameras via firmware updates, so this is pretty wild what Panasonic is doing. And I also personally like what Panasonic did here with the 24-60, because this lens is really compact compared to the 24-70 2.8. So really great addition. Probably I would have wished a little bit more on the wide end, but we cannot have it all. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the S1 Mark II? Please tell me in the comments below, and definitely subscribe to the channel, because in the future I will do a comparison between the S1H and the S1R Mark II. Cheers!